to Growth. And I am so excited to have Mark here today with us. How's it going, Mark?
It's going incredibly good. Thank you, thank you, thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome. Look, we're going to talk about some great things on today. Like, I cannot wait to hear the nuggets, the information that Mark is going to drop for the audience on today. So just open up your hearts and minds and just be ready to receive. So are you ready to go, Mark?
I am ready and willing and waiting.
Awesome. Look, let's start from the very beginning because you experienced, just some tragedies, just from the beginning, early on in life. Like you lost both of your parents at such an early age. So let's just talk about how that really shaped you when it came to, you having to grow up and just learn all the things of trying to navigate through life. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so 1964, December
Wow.
28th, day I'll always remember. Um, my father was a pastor, and they were going to a ministerial dinner.
Hmm.
I distinctly remember them leaving that night. I can close
Wow.
my eyes and tell you exactly what my mom was wearing.
Wow.
And About 15 minutes after they left our home, they were both killed in a car accident.
Hmm.
And so there were five siblings left. I had a brother that was 10 years older than me, a brother 8 years older than me, a brother 5 years older than me. I was 8 years old, and I had a little sister 3 years younger than me.
Wow.
Um, so, yeah, a tragedy, devastating. People from all over the world wrote and sent us money. It was kind of
Wow.
amazing. I've got a
Yes.
whole thing my grandmother put together. And so, my grandmother, who was 84 and widowed at the time,
Wow.
stood before a judge and said, "I think it's God's will that these kids stay with me, and I'm
Mhm.
willing and prepared to do that." And she was, and the
Wow.
court agreed. So my grandmother raised me, but I can tell you we didn't get any counseling. Nobody came and talked to us about anything, and so probably the first encounter that I really have that's critical for me is. My grandmother says to me, so I'm getting ready to go into the next grade. And my grandmother says to me sometime in August, she says, "We need to go through your dresser drawers and clean out some stuff. We've got some new clothes coming for school
Mhm.
year, and we need to get rid of that stuff." And I said, "Okay." And so I had a four-drawer dresser in my room. She started with the top one, and there were some shirts and underwear, anyway, socks. And
Right.
anyway, we get down to the bottom drawer, and now I'm a little anxious. There's a
Mhm.
couple of sweaters in there, and I think a pair of slacks in there. And she pulls open the drawer and she picks the clothes up and neatly folded. My grandma made me lunch every day, and she wrote my name on the bag every day. So one for Scott, one for Carl, one for Greg, one for Mark, one for Sally, right? And she says, "What are all these?" And she picked up one that was neatly folded and looked at it. And I said, "Grandma, I I was afraid if I lose you, I would never remember you."
Oh,
And so
wow.
those are memories of you thinking of me every morning when you made my
Yeah.
lunch. And I had the whole years where she goes, "Well, that,"
Wow.
and she started crying, right? And I think for the first time she realized how significant the loss was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not that she didn't before, but she really felt. And so I was fortunate. I was 8. I was very impressionable. And I think my grandmother, my brothers will tell you today, my sister, "Oh, grandma favored you. She favored you." And it wasn't so much that she favored me. God had a plan,
Right.
and I did not want to hurt my grandma's feelings.
Right.
She was the most giving person I've ever met in my life. Everybody in our neighborhood, there were women in our neighborhood older than my grandma. They call her grandma.
Mhm.
Everybody called her grandma. She was grandma to everybody. And um, so that was kind of the start. But I did not have any father image in my life at that point in
Right.
time.
Right.
And so, the first person in the book I've written was who I'll call Uncle John. He wasn't my uncle, he was my dad's best friend. We ended up buying a home about 3 blocks from them. And so I could easily walk over or ride my bike over. Anyway, it became kind of a common thing that I would stop and see Uncle John
Mhm.
uh, very regularly. And he'd let me work on wood with him. He was a finished carpenter, and his
Mhm.
whole garage was 2 car garage was his wood shop. And and he began to guide me and coach me and instruct
Awesome.
me and give me wisdom. And that began to have this huge impact on me.
Awesome.
So that's really where it starts. The book has 26 different men in it. Some are school teachers, some are neighbors in our neighborhood.
So let's
Uh,
talk about those men, because those men was so they were very instrumental for you, like, as mentors, helping you learn about manhood. And some of those you mentioned were kind of unexpected father figures. So let's just talk about how those men were able to fill that void for you, that was there because you lost your father. Let's dive into that.
yeah, so I think maybe one of the they all had an impact at different
Mhm.
times for different reasons and different things. But we'll start with Coach Holland. So I was junior high. I was skinny. I mean, when I say skinny, I get if I turned sideways and stuck out my tongue, you'd think I was
Yeah.
a zipper. I was that bad. It was just awful. There was just nothing to me at all. And so I would go to gym class every day, and we'd usually pick teams for whatever the sports season was.
Mhm.
And I was always the last one to get picked, and I never played.
Mhm.
And Coach Holland just came to me one day, and he said, I've got something different for you to do that I think will be of value to you. And I said, okay. And he said, let's get the game started, and then you and I are going to go out into the field. I said, okay. And so he got the game started, went over and picked some golf clubs up and a bag of golf balls and started walking out towards the field. And he said, golf is a great sport. It doesn't really require size or
Right.
genius.
Mhm.
It just requires a lot of dedication and
Mhm.
determination. And so we got out there, and he showed me how to hit a ball, and I hit a few balls, missed more balls than I hit. But he said, "You're doing good. You're doing good." So that became the habit every day. I would show up, get dressed for school. I would grab the clubs and the balls, and I'd head off to the field. And so I did that. And at the end of the semester, I come to drop the clubs off and the balls back off. And coach says, "Hey, after you get dressed, come back here. I want to see you." And I go back, and he's got a set of golf clubs for me. And
Wow.
I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, "Oh, really?" He goes, "Yeah, I want
Mhm.
you to take these home this summer. I want you to practice with these." And he met me the next day, which was a Saturday, um, at a golf course that was a bicycle ride away. I would throw my paper routes. I would tape my clubs to the center bar on my bike, and I would leave my paper route, and I'd go right to the thing. And I was there 6 days a week.
Wow.
I began I became friends with a lot of people, but he introduced me to the owner and a couple of the guys that worked there, and so that's all I did all that whole
Wow.
summer pretty much. I just I I worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. And so when I came back in the fall, he saw me before gym class and he says, "Hey, I'm looking to see what you did. Make me happy." I said, "Oh, I don't know. We'll see." So sure enough, we go out there. He brought a bunch of jump ropes, and he laid the jump ropes out and made squares. And he made squares about 30 yards, 60 yards, 90 yards. Threw 8 balls down on the ground. He says, "Let me see how many you can get in the 30 square."
Wow.
And they all hit the square. Not all of them stayed. Some bounced out. And we went to 60, then we went to 90. And then he said, but it was remarkable, is what he said. He
Yeah.
said, "Mark, I am so proud of you." And
Awesome.
I now, I'm 12 years old. I haven't had anybody tell me they're proud of me.
Yes, that
And
that just was huge. I felt that even now,
yeah,
like,
he was just a wonder. He stayed true to that my whole junior high. He introduced me to the golf coach in high school. He took me golfing. He came and picked me up. My grandma got to meet him. Very nice man. Just a special guy, right? And so throughout my life, there are these people that walk in and out, walk in and out, walk in and out.
Mhm.
Some I stay connected to. even as I grow older. Some I don't. I don't really see them much beyond that particular point in time in my life when I had the encounter with them. But I
Right.
do believe they were all a gift from God. And I'll
Right.
tell you,
Right.
I have a quote from Winston Churchill in the book. It says, "To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do an incredibly special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for what could have been their finest hour."
Mm,
And all I can say is every one of those men I got to
right.
see and spend time with in their finest hour.
Right.
It was
Wow.
the most special, amazing. And as I grew older, I kept saying, I need to honor these guys. I need to
Right.
recognize these
Yeah.
guys, right? I
Yes.
mean, they're and some of them are still alive today. Some of them I had lunch earlier today with a gentleman who he's the very last person in the book. He's number 26, and
Wow.
he's just I love him. I mean, that's
What
all I
a
can say.
what a blessing though, that you had so many different people in different seasons of life, and to be able to honor them, for whatever parts they were able to play, and just for them, I know that means a lot, because guess what, they're not even looking for anything in return. It's just it was on their heart to do, to pour into you. So full circle, and that's just a blessing.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
that's one of the I think that's one of the major points that I bring out in the book. This whole thing about giving, right? So,
Mhm.
why do we give? Why should we give? And what is the benefit of giving, right? So, it started with me doing a men's Bible study for church, and in that men's Bible study, I was working on Genesis, and I came to the determination that after the 6 days, God then made man, but He gave the world and the universe, for that matter, to man. He
Mhm.
gave us everything, and so the world is a giving entity. That's the design behind God. He gave us all
Mhm.
the things to make life special for us, right?
Mhm.
So I don't believe we live on the earth. We live with it, we live
Mhm.
in it, and we live through it. And
Well, he
so,
created it for man.
yeah.
That's
So
who he created it for.
that's right. So it's not
Yeah.
it. The task is not to conquer nature, but it's really to learn to live and work in
We,
harmony with its
yes.
generosity. The
Yes.
earth doesn't
Everything
give
he
to us
put in
because we
on the
deserve it.
earth was for us.
Yeah, it doesn't give to us because we deserve it. It gives to us because giving is what life does,
Mhm.
right? Which
Yeah.
then prompted me to say, Jesus said, "For God so loved that He gave." So
Mhm.
love is the primary factor of God in our relationship. The first action that He calls for is giving, right? Matter of fact, if you go to Proverbs 4:23, it says, "Above all else, guard your hearts, for everything you do flows from it."
Mhm.
And what that tells me is, unlike the rest of the universe, we get to make decisions, right? So, what's incredible about the universe in my thinking, right? The plants, the vegetation doesn't consume the fruits and vegetables, right? The rivers and streams and snow don't consume the water they produce. The fragrant flowers don't suck in all the fragrance that they have, right? And all of them do that because they don't have a choice. That's what God designed for them to do. And so, unlike them, God gives us a choice, right?
Yes.
He gives us this choice, and
Mhm.
so we're completely different from the rest of the world,
Mhm.
because we get to choose. And
Yes.
that, to me, is really kind of the most important element of giving,
Yes.
right?
And
If you give, it comes
let's
back
dive
to
in.
you.
Yes. And let's dive into that, because you talk about really choosing your day, getting up, being inspiring. So let's talk about what that looks like. Because we do have to choose. And of course, the title of our my podcast, along with my brother Dr. King, is From Gutter to Growth.
Mhm.
So for those people who get to choose, but they may feel like, how do I inspire others when I'm having such a difficult time myself to get up every day and get going? What would you say to them of why it's so important what they choose to do regardless of how they may be feeling?
So let me just say, giving is not, in my thinking, it's not a material thing, right? I can
Right.
give of my substance,
Mhm.
I can give of my
Mhm.
money, I can give, but that's not the real essence
Mhm.
of giving, right? Giving is an action. It's what I
Love
do.
it. Mhm.
So I say it's time, energy, and emotions. You
Mhm.
give your time, you give your energy and your emotions. So how does that look? I lived in a neighborhood. All the homes in the neighborhood were set 75 yards from the street. It was a beautiful
Mhm.
neighborhood,
Mhm.
marvelous neighborhood. You drive through the neighborhood and you go, wow, look at this, look at that house, look
Mhm.
at that house, look at that house. And I will just say, as a side note, it is magically marvelous until it snows. And the first time you have to shovel 75 yards, 2 cars wide,
Yeah,
you
my
say, this
husband
is not
talks
a good
about that.
idea. I don't know who thought about this, right? But so we lived on a cul-de-sac, 6 homes. We began to get together as neighbors pretty regularly. Uh, and so I'm coming home one night and it's cold, it's winter, it's not really snowing, but it's snowed already. But I know the neighbor across the street, he's out on business. I talked to him that
Mhm.
weekend. I knew he was gone. The trash barrels are sitting out there, and I thought, you know what? I should take the barrels up for Cheryl. So she doesn't have. So I get out of my car. I walk the 75 yards. I come back. I get in my car, and as I start to drive down the street towards my driveway, I notice somebody else's barrels are out, and I think, oh shoot, I should take their barrels up too. Yeah, I should. So I took their barrels up, and then came home, took my barrels up.
Mhm.
Well, that kind of became a regular thing. I kept thinking about love your neighbors yourself. What that, I would love somebody to do this for me, but they don't have to. But anyway, Christmas comes about 6 weeks later after I start doing this, and everybody's saying, "Hey, who's the trash person? Who's taking all the trash cans?" And I'm like, "Trash person? What are you talking about?" And they go, "Oh, somebody's taking our barrels up regularly." And so, wow, that's not that. That's interesting, right? Well, we kind of blew it off. Everybody laughed about it and everything. And then somebody must have been watching me or watching for me. And it varied what time I got home just because of work and what I was doing. But about 3 weeks later, I'm out traveling and I call my wife in the evening to see how everything's going. And she says, "Oh, by the way, guess what? Somebody took our trash barrels up." I said, "Are you kidding me?" And she goes, "No, they're right up here by the garage door. I don't know. I can't figure it out." Right. I'm like,
It's
"Oh,
so
my word." Right. Fast forward another 2 weeks, and I come home, and my wife's she got an envelope. And she says, "Guess what? You got a card in the mail today." I said, "Really?"
wow.
So I opened the card, and it was just kind of a generic card, but I flipped it open and said, "Thanks for being the trash guy. We
Wow.
love you." And there's a gift card in there. Now I didn't do that,
Wow.
right, for the gift card. And then there's another card, and then I ended up getting 3 cards, right? And and so how does that work? I think you have to be habitual.
Mhm.
You know, I got the quote in the book: "We are what we repeatedly do." So
Mhm.
greatness or excellence is not an act; it's a habit because
Wow.
it's what you repeatedly do, right? It's what you
Wow.
always do, right?
Mhm.
I always start my day in prayer. I always end my day
Mhm.
in prayer. But you have to wake up in the morning and intentionally be thinking about, how do I give today? God, what's the
Right.
chance for me to give today? And sometimes it can be something as simple as somebody forgets to get in the right lane to get off or get on or whatever to turn, and I let them in because a lot of
Right.
people won't let you in. They're going to fight. No,
I
no, no,
know
you're
I'm
not cutting.
trying to
You're not
get
cutting.
better with that and
You're
be
not cutting. You're
mindful
not
of
cutting. Right.
it.
And I'm out. So I'm out walking just last week, and as I'm walking down the street, I notice this girl has got a flat tire, and she's not loosening it. She's not
Mhm.
loosening the tire. She's
Mhm.
tightening it. And so I stopped and I said, "Whoa, that's a tough job." She goes, "I can't get any of them to come loose." I said, "Well, first off, it's righty tighty, lefty loosey, right?"
Right.
So I said, "You're pushing the wrong direction." She goes, "I'm what?" I said, "Here, let me show you." So I go over, and she must have been sitting on this one because I mean, I thought I was going to die getting it on, but I got it loose, and then I got another one. I said, "What was the next one you were?" She said, "That I got them both loose." And I said, so you just got to go the right direction. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. She goes, oh my gosh, that is so smart. I'm like, well, yeah, yeah, I guess if you didn't know, it's smart, right? So I
Right.
said, do you want me to help you? And she says, "Oh no, I've already called my boyfriend. He's coming." And I'm glad because now I'll probably have the other three loosened by the time he
Right.
gets here, and I'll look pretty smart, won't I?
Yeah.
I said, "Well, yeah, I guess you would look pretty smart." And she goes, "So I don't need your help because I'm loving the fact that my boyfriend's coming to save me." So I said, "Okay, well, but that's just one little thing, right? It's just
Mhm.
it's just it, it doesn't have to be huge. I
Right.
used to when I worked regularly from time to time, there'd be street people, looking for money. Can you give me?
Mhm.
And I would buy just little $5 Carl's Jr. or McDonald's, and I'd roll the
Mhm.
window down and I'd say, "Here, go get yourself a good meal," right? And then, sometimes they'd say, "Oh, I could use the cash." I know, but I don't have cash, so here's
Right.
the card, right? So, but those, and so it's the the power of all this is God wants us to give.
Yeah.
He wants us to
He
give.
does. And
Right?
the
Greatest in
word
the
I
kingdom, greatest
yeah,
in the
and the word
kingdom
I
is
use
servant of
for that
all.
is serving. He wants us to serve. That is what he's calling us to do because, the greatest is the biggest servant of all.
That's right.
So how do we help people though shift their mindsets to knowing that God wants us to give. He wants us to serve, and that's how you can live life to the fullest. So let's talk
So,
about that.
so life for me is all about habits. I'm a
Yeah.
pretty habitual guy. No, I am. I go to the gym. I walk. There's certain things I do. My
Mhm.
kids will tell you I was very structured. My son didn't really appreciate me at times because I said, "You threw with that tool. You put it back right where it
Right.
goes." So
Yeah.
I know where it's at when I need
Mhm.
to go get it. You know where it's at.
Mhm.
You know, it's just a lot of habits. So I found that habits breed habits, right? You
Mm.
you you do certain things and then you think, oh, I should get better. So I changed my diet. I changed um, my sleep habits all around my health because I want to be healthy.
Right.
So so you don't have to do great things. You just got to do some things, right?
Mhm.
So the habit is every morning you're going to look for a chance to give,
Mhm.
whatever that is. And you don't need any recognition. You don't need anybody to pat you on the back. You don't need anybody to call you out and say, "Oh, there's
Right.
the
Right.
there's the trash guy." That's not what you're doing it for. But God will come back and God will give back to you. Jesus said, I don't have this memorized, but I do have it here. Jesus said in Matthew 7:12, therefore, whatever you want others to do for you, do also the same for them.
Mm.
This is the law of the prophets.
Mhm.
So when you give, you will get giving in return because God is good. That's what he does.
Yes.
That's how he works.
Yes.
So I believe it's true. My grandmother used to say, she said a lot of things. She had all these colloquial isms, right? But she'd say, you reap what you sow.
Right.
You mean to
Whether
that boy
good
down the
or
street?
bad.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're mean to that boy down the street. He's going to be mean to you for a
Yeah.
long time. So just
Yeah.
pay attention, right?
Yeah.
You can be nice, or you can just be pleasant. You don't
Yeah.
have to be his best friend, right? So I do think people need to think about how can I do that. And I'm telling you, the best place to do it is at home. You
Yeah.
don't have to go out in the world to figure out, do
Yeah.
something nice for your spouse or your
Yeah.
sibling or your uncle or your aunt or your grandma or your grandpa. Just do something nice for them,
Yes.
right? Go get something for them because you know that they're going to need that. They need a blanket.
Right.
It's getting a little cool in here.
Yeah.
Um, but those are all giving things that I think once it becomes, we've got twin boys. So I've got 11 grandkids, 6 and under. We've got a set of
Wow. That's
twins
a
in there.
blessing.
And the two twins are just constantly taking care of each other. One will see what something doesn't have, they'll sit down to dinner and they'll see he doesn't have a spoon or his fork, and they'll go get him a spoon and
Mhm.
fork and bring it to him. Or they'll see that his cup's almost out of water and they'll take his cup and go put water in it and bring it back. I'm just amazed at those two. I am, because I'm thinking,
Right.
man, they've got this at least for each other. Now, they're not that way with everybody, but at least
Right.
for each other, they've got this down to a science. They know about taking care of each other because I guess they lived in the womb for so
Yeah.
long together, right? I don't know, but it's kind of cute.
So you bring so much light, and so many people want to share the love, and they want to give, and we are in a world where sometimes, it's not always reciprocated, it's not always received well. So, what do you say to the person who's like, I want to, do this, but when I put myself out there, it seems as if it's not received well, or people may reject what I'm trying to give.
Yeah.
So, what would you say?
I think Proverbs has a lot to say about what's important for us. And so Proverbs 20:25 says, the purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out. So I do
Mhm.
believe that there's wisdom and insight about what we do. And I do believe God wants us to be conscientious. I can
Right.
tell you, I've got the brother just older than me has lived beyond his means his whole life. And for a long time, I am a giver. He would call me
Right.
and say, I need some money. I need some money. I need some money. And I did that and my
Mhm.
wife was very gracious with that. She understood the challenges. I think he took my parents' death worse than the rest of us.
Mhm.
Um, but, but then I had kids and I said to him one day, I can't keep doing this.
Mhm.
So this is the last I'm going to give you. Don't make it uncomfortable by asking me anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
don't go around my back and ask my wife because, she's a giver just like I am.
Mhm.
So just don't do that. And I think it was hard for him at first but he got the message. He understood. He
Mhm.
said, yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, you're that. I said, everything I give to you, I can't, it's not for my kids then. It's not for my wife. And those are people that I need to take care of. It's my responsibility.
Right.
So I think you need to be prudent. And I think you need to pray about it. I mean,
Right.
sometimes you know, um, I can't think of his name, but there's a great guy in church history who starts his own um, ministry, and he said, "Wherever you go, share the love of God, and
Mhm.
when needed, speak."
Wow.
So I think life is really, as a Christian, it's action based. It's what
Mhm.
we do, right? Um, and so I do think it's uh, you know it's kind of, it comes down to the people. So one of my cliche things that I kind of perfected when I was in my late 20s, I was doing a lot of, I was teaching college, and then I was actually um, writing a lot of materials for the company I worked for. And so I have a quote that says, life is all about doing for others what no one else is willing to do.
Right.
Right. And
Yes.
so if you can figure out what you can do for that other person, now it may be that you're just the ear. they
Wow.
they're a wife who've got five kids
Wow.
and a husband who works two jobs, and when they go home and talk, nobody listens to anything because they're just all busy, busy,
Yes.
busy, busy. But they
Yes.
come to work and they talk, and you stop and listen, and they fall in love with you because you're the only person that stops and listens to what I have to
Mhm.
say, right? So it doesn't have, again, it doesn't have to be a material thing. It doesn't have to, but if you can figure out what people need that they're not getting, um, then give that to them.
Wow.
That's priceless. I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
people, they can't find you anywhere they go. They look around and they say,
Wow.
I don't see anybody else that does that like you do, right? Well,
Wow.
that's good.
I
That's a
love
God
that.
gift,
I
right?
love that. So, Mark, let's talk about what are 2 to 3 like simple but powerful steps? Like if you can just give someone some steps to live by, like so they can live life intentionally. Like what would you say? Like here are 2 to 3 steps for you to live life intentionally to be able to inspire others.
Well, I do think that habits are important, right?
Mhm.
So I think our success in life starts here. We know what
Mm.
our heart is, but
Yes.
we can fake people out based
Wow.
on what our heart is. I can really dislike somebody, but I can say, "Oh, hi, it's so good to
Wow.
see you," and that doesn't make any sense. So I think for a lot of people, life starts here, and I live by a quote that says, "Life is neither good or bad, but thinking makes it so." So
Mhm.
every day, my day is exactly what I want it to be.
Mm.
I don't, I learned that from the death of my parents, right? I could
Mhm.
drag that baggage all the way through my life. I could carry it for as long as I want. There's an old, there's an old Irish tombstone says, "Death leaves a heart no one can heal. Giving leaves a memory no one can steal."
Mm.
And so, to me, that's a big piece of life, right? You just
Yes.
if you give people things, they walk away and they're kind of blown away by it. And
I
it doesn't,
love
again,
that.
it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be material.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
I'm not overly boisterous about my faith at work,
Mhm.
and never have been, but I would tell
The
people and
action.
that I would pray for them.
Yeah.
Because I'll pray for you and your mom, or I'll pray for you and whatever
Mhm.
the situation was, right? And I think they appreciated that because I would ask often, "How are things going? Has
Yes.
anything changed? Do I need to pray for something else?" Right? And people don't think about that much in life. We don't.
Mhm.
But I do think the whole dynamic of giving is a critical piece um, for us to walk. I mean, imagine with me for just a minute. How good would this earth be if everyone gave?
Yeah.
If everyone gave,
Yeah.
they saw a need. They said, "Hey," they saw an opportunity to just step in and say, "Hey, you look like you're doing down today. What can I
Yeah.
help you with?" Right?
Yes.
And even though you may say, "No, no, 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 I got it, I got it. No, 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 I got it, I got it. I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine." You'll never forget the fact that
Right.
someone came into your life and said, "I want to help you."
Mhm.
And the world is, we live kind of in a me culture, a me society, a bunch of meisms. It's me, 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 and that's the world. I get it. That was the world that God had to destroy. They were all
Mhm.
self-consumed, and so God said, "Everybody goes. Noah's the only guy we're gonna, you know," and he does it. He
Mhm.
does it, right? Because that's that's our human nature.
Yes.
That's our
Mhm.
human nature. It says early in chapter 8. It's wicked and sinful youth, right?
Mhm.
And when I studied that verse, it's 8:21, I think. When I studied that verse and looked at it, there's a lot of people that think that youth means the moment you come out of the womb, you got problems,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't have to, you don't have to develop any of that. You don't have to learn any of that.
Right.
It's
Born
all
in
there,
sin.
right? So, I know we have those situations, but I would tell everybody um, that one, you got to think, and I would just say, you can't spend enough time in prayer. You can't.
Mhm.
God speaks through prayer. He
Mhm.
answers questions. You'll pray for things, and you'll see the answer. Sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no, but you'll
Mhm.
see the answer. It's evident that God's hand is in that. Um, and so I believe prayer is important, and I think, Jesus is pretty practical. Um, but he spends a lot of time away in prayer, right? He's gone.
Yes.
Where is he? I don't know.
Yeah.
He's gone, and a lot of times he'll tell them, "I need to go spend time with my father,"
Yes.
right? Which
Yes.
means a lot to me,
Right.
right? Because that's, everybody needs that. Tony Dungy, I did put some quotes in the book. Tony Dungy maybe said the best thing in the book. He said, "Fatherlessness is a silent epidemic. It doesn't just leave children without a dad, it leaves them without part of themselves." And I think that's true,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
I
Wow.
think that's a very, very true element of, there is this innate thing of those who were involved in my being. They really were
Mhm.
involved, right? My mother and my father. And you can't really replace that. I've
Right.
had long conversations when people find out I didn't have parents. I've had long
Yeah.
conversations with people about, I have a dad, but it doesn't work. And I don't understand what doesn't work means, because
Yeah.
I think I would just be clinging to my dad,
Yeah.
saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you, I
Yeah.
love you. I'm so glad you're here."
Yeah. And
But
I get what they're saying. I wrote a book called The Fatherless Girl because my dad, was alive for majority of my life. He passed away like 5 years ago, but because of life circumstances with addiction and abuse, I get it. Like it just, it was as if I was fatherless. So, And you're right. You have to allow the Lord to fill that void of fatherlessness because he above all is the best father. So when people realize that if they have that void, like even though your earthly father may fail you, God, our Heavenly Father, is more than enough. So, Mark, for the audience, tell them how can they find your book? Where can they go to find your book?
You can order it through Amazon. You can order it through Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million. There's a variety of places that you can order it. And I do have a website, and I say in the book very emphatically, if you contact me, I will spend time with you. That's my gift, right? I'll give
Give
what
us the name of the book again, Mark.
the the book is Searching for Father,
Mm-hmm.
a son's pursuit for a father's presence. And the byline underneath there is how ordinary men became extraordinary guides.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody needs that, and God will provide. That's all I can
Yes,
say. He will
he
provide, but you
will.
have to be open and receptive, and then you have to be engaging in order for that relationship to become something powerful. But
I
absolutely.
love it. I love it. Well, Mark, I am so glad that you came on today. And audience, I hope you were able to receive. And please go out and search up the book because, as you said, Marcus, so many people who are experiencing fatherlessness. Like, that is an epidemic. That is the truth. So go out, search it. If you feel like you don't need to get it for somebody else. All right. Until next time, live from the gutter to grow. Be blessed, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye bye.
Thank you.